So, Wunder Worry has been in the works for about 18 months, I guess. And two of our members at Open Space, Megan Dickey and Kaylee Finnegan, have single-handedly taken this on. So to begin with, I think we should all give them a round of applause. So Megan Dickey is a sculptor, and some of you might have seen her work this year at Daylish Contemporary Art. She also teaches at the University of Victoria. Kaylee Finnegan is also an artist, more photography-based and two-dimensional paint. And she also does a very interesting blog, so ask her about that.
Especially the title.
Hard! That's right. Anyway, they will tell you more about the exhibition, and I especially have to commend them because they were able to get the catalog produced for the opening, and I encourage you to take a look at that. They have, Megan and Kaylee have done a really great job of the publication, so turn it over to you.
Well, thanks again for coming out to the opening of Wunder Worry. Megan and I, this show came about because of a proposal that Suzanne Frank sent to Open Space. And Megan showed it to me, and we both were really enamored with Suzanne's work. And Suzanne did this beautiful light preserving pieces, which is behind me here. And we thought that her work would really work well with Kevin Yates' work, which are the miniatures behind you on the wall here. And we then thought that a local artist, Troi, her work, which is these inflatables here and plastic sculptures, they would all work really well as a big sculpture show to put into Open Space. We've been wanting to put on a sculpture show in Open Space for a long time. It's a big space, and it lends itself really well to actual big sculpture pieces, so we're enthusiastic to put that together. Megan, do you want to say anything?
I would like to talk about the kind of concept behind the work. The idea being an idea of anxiety, but taking anxiety from a stance of fantasy. So looking at how we actually enjoy these prolonged experiences of waiting for something bad to happen, and presenting it as actual objects. And so that kind of even prolongs it further because the object is permanent. So it's almost as if that memory or that wanting for something terrible or that fear of something terrible is going to be around forever. That's probably all I want to say. I think we're going to start with Troi. Possibly. There she is. Hi. So Troi Donnelly is going to start, and then we're going to move to Kevin, and then we're going to finish up with Suzanne.
So I started with gluing flip-flops together to create the depth that I needed, and then I cut out fluffy shapes and what I call sound words, and these words are a guttural response to the types of consumer products that I'm trying to mimic. And they were like a physical reaction, this uttering of nonsensical, one-syllable sounds that seemed more an accurate description to the kinds of products that I was trying to mimic. So the words became the product, and I attached the toe strap of a flip-flop to the object to become the wristband, because I'm interested in the suggestion of a more intimate connection with the piece. So again, with the metal clips on the shapes, it's just it's an invitation to be more intimately connected with the piece. I also worked with plasticine. I made those objects on the far wall. Those are made directly from the drawings. Those were really satisfying to me because I could use plasticine and it allowed them to have great detail. and they really were became the products that I was hoping to be able to make. And I also work with vinyl plastic, which I buy inflatable toys from discount stores and cut them up and make more inflatables. And again, the air valve on those is a suggestion of an invitation to participate. Yeah, so making more inflatables, playing around with the plasticine, having the objects deflate, just working with the material. It's just fun to make something that you actually wanted to fall. So I build those, make those words and just let them fall and enjoy the aesthetics of the material. And I guess most recently I've been working with the idea of the natural environment and consumerism kind of clashing, and the pink fir cones at the back there are more about that idea. I wanted to find something that was around me, something ordinary, and appreciate it for its natural beauty. And then I stuck it in a jar, and it's just meant to be more of a reflective piece. To reflect, I think, on issues around preserving and preservation and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much, in a nutshell, what I do. And thank you again for coming, and if I can answer any questions, I thank you for finding that.
So now we'll turn the floor over to Kevin Yates, which is just over here. And Kevin's come all the way from Ontario with not the best feel, or he's a little sick, so he's fine now.
So this is my area, darker area over here. So I've been working with miniature objects for a while now, probably for over 10 years. And often my subjects are pretty disturbing and have a kind of a twisted, darker side to them. And as sculptures, why I like the miniature is that it sort of hovers between an actual object, and because of its size, kind of like an image, because we can't really access them in the same way that we can a life-size physical thing. And that's something that has kept me going and experimenting with them. And although it looks incredibly vulnerable, and probably is, hopefully we're all aware of it, I choose to exhibit my work, these miniatures, in this very vulnerable state on the gallery floor. I think that that's an integral part of the work, that they're not seen necessarily as figurines, which would be displayed on shelving units, that they are in our space, so we need to kind of engage with them in that way. And so you can get down really close to them and experience them in a very unusual viewing experience. And the mattress pieces and garbage bags, those sort of motifs of them is something that's also kept me inspired for various reasons, but they've been a reoccurring thing in my work. Since about 2002, I started making mattresses out of found material from old stained mattresses. And I was living in a community in sort of northwestern Ontario, in a sort of a cottage community. And at the end of the season, all the tourists would come to and close their cottages, and they would get rid of their horrible mattresses and they'd throw them out on the side of the street. And for some reason in my head, I thought it would be a great idea to go and cut out all these gross stained parts, bring them back to my studio with surgical gloves and dust masks, try to protect myself, and teach myself how to sew and make miniature mattresses. And along the way, it fooled me, and I took off my gloves, and I, sort of fell in love with the material, these sort of horrible stains. And so I choose things that are disgusting, of course, but also work as miniatures, so I'm not after the big floral prints, so I'm pretty specific that way. And this work over here, I was living down in Eugene, Oregon. I was a teacher down there during the time that Katrina had hit New Orleans, and all these students were displaced all over the country to try to finish up and to live a normal life. And so it was my job to interview these students, and down there in the media it was kind of washed over. And these kind of tragedies, it seems to be a recurring thing, like a weekly down in the States, like there's a tornado or hurricane, whatever. And so I didn't really pay much attention to it, and it was only through my experience of interviewing these students and finding out their personal stories that I became inspired and intrigued and kind of shocked by the way I handled it. It was something that, for me, I didn't think twice of, and then it was after the fact, through the media, that I experienced these images in that event. And so it was my way of kind of understanding and, I guess, dealing with that and those images. And so I was looking at images online and on the news reports, and I guess I stared a little too long. And I started to see in the images, I stopped seeing the whole event, and I started to see the reflection in the real as the one, as a physical real object. So I wanted to try to capture that. And so I was pretty specific about how I would make them and display them, so it would make play between and hover between that actual object and that image. And again, because of the miniature scale, they're kind of these inaccessible spaces as well. They become kind of prisms, or like some people refer to them kind of like boat-like or ark-like objects. So they kind of float around the space. And I've made quite a few of them in an attempt to try to create that flood line for the viewer, that experience that they're in the water or at eye level with the water line there. And then this object here was a work that's based on, it isn't the actual one, it's a version of it, but a telephone pole that's in Toronto, and often I'm bringing it back home and observing the world around me. And this object in particular, from these tragedies, it's the one thing that sort of stood up through the water. And I had moved from Eugene to Toronto at that time, and we just kind of walk the streets, and I guess I experienced that a bit differently, and would often think about these sort of narratives of the potential of the sort of danger, and as a kind of beacon